Good morning. Please be seated. I'm Gary Jenkins, the Dean of the University of Minnesota Law School, and it's my honor to welcome all of you to the law school's commencement ceremony. Graduates of the class of 2018, you are the 130th class to complete a legal education at Minnesota's oldest and finest law school. On behalf of my colleagues, let me offer the first of many congratulations. We have all gathered to celebrate you as you commence your careers in law. We are pleased that all of you could join us for this celebration today, so welcome, family and friends. I also want to recognize some of our special guests who are joining us on the stage today. First, I'd like to recognize two distinguished alumni lawyer leaders, our keynote speaker, Arnie Sorensen, class of '83, the president and CEO of Marriott International. I will introduce Mr. Sorensen more fully later in the ceremonies. I'd also like to welcome Regent Darren Rocha, class of '96, a member of the University of Minnesota Board of Regents, who will later confer degrees on our graduates. Regent Rocha is an attorney with the Rocha Legal Group in Orono, Minnesota. He's also a lieutenant colonel in the Minnesota Army National Guard, currently serving as command judge advocate of the 347th Regional Support Group. He received bachelor's degrees in applied economics and political science from the University of Minnesota, and he's a 1996 graduate of our law school. Regent Rocha has always been active in the community and serves on multiple boards, including the Center for Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Center, the Alpha Gamma Rho Educational Foundation, and Roots for Youth. It's also my pleasure to introduce Andrew Furco, who is here today on behalf of the university's central administration. Professor Furco serves as the Associate Vice President for Public Engagement at the University of Minnesota, where he's also Professor of Higher Education in the Department of Organizational Leadership, Policy, and Development. He focuses on the role of the new engagement in higher education. Prior to arriving at the U, he was on the faculty of the Graduate School of Education at the University of California at Berkeley, where he also directed Berkeley's Service Learning Research and Development Center for 14 years. Dr. Furco holds bachelor's and master's degrees from UCLA and a doctorate in educational policy and administration from UC Berkeley. Welcome, Dr. Furco. There are two other groups here today that are particularly important in the lives of our students and merit special attention. First are the family and friends who have supported our graduates through law school with their love, their support, and care. In particular, would the spouses, the partners, the children of those in the graduating class please stand and be recognized by all of us, but most especially by the graduates themselves. And next are the parents of those who will shortly become lawyers, for the support and sacrifices you have made for your children, for the example and guidance that you have provided them, and perhaps even the occasional access to a checkbook or two. Would you please stand as you are able so that you can be recognized? Now it's my pleasure to introduce the faculty of the law school. Family and friends, these are some of the many people you've heard about for the past 3 years. One of them may be the professor who asked your student that first terrifying Socratic question. Another one may be the one who came up with that evil exam and you heard complaining about for weeks. Or perhaps you'll hear the name of a mentor or instructor who was the source of inspiration. Now you can put a face with those names that you've heard. So please hold your applause until everyone has been introduced. And faculty, I will ask that you briefly stand as you are able while I announce your names. So I'm going to start over here. We have Bradley Kirkarian. We have David Weisbrod. We have Brett McDonald, Karen Lundquist, Maury Landsman, Herbert Kritzer, Alexandra Klass, Heidi Kotroser, Claire Hill, Kristen Hickman, Oren Gross, Gilles Guillot, Richard Fraze, Brad Clary, Jessica Clark, Carol Chomsky, Linus Chan, Benjamin Casper Sanchez, Ann Burkhart, Brian Bix, Steve Beffert, Jill Hasday, Dean Aaron Keyes, Randall Ryder, Kara Galvin, Chris Tarofsky, Mitch Zamoff, Laura Thomas, Robert Stein, Chris Soper, Francis Shen, Daniel Schwartz, Perry Moriarty, Steve Miley, Chris Roberts, Amy Monahan, Bill McGovern, John McClanahan Lee, Dean Joan Howland, Dean Alan Erbsen, and Dean June Carbone. I want to specifically recognize and thank two brilliant members of our faculty who have devoted their time in service of the law school and of our students for the last 3 years in service in an academic administration. Professor Alan Erbsen, the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, and Professor June Carbone, the Associate Dean for Research and Planning. I am so grateful for their support of me, for their remarkable contributions to so many different areas of our law school. We are a stronger institution because of their leadership, their vision, their dedication. Both Alan and June will be returning to their full-time faculty responsibilities this summer, so please join me in giving them a round of applause. Now, I'm the dean, but I'm also a faculty member at heart, so that means I can't resist the opportunity of taking advantage of this moment, my one last time to speak to all of you, our students, at least for another hour and a half. But don't worry, I don't plan any cold calling. We gather here today to commemorate your graduation from our law school and your transition into the legal profession. The word profession comes from the Latin term profess, which means to make a public declaration. Indeed, that's precisely what lawyers and other professionals do when they enter the ranks. They declare to the world that they are skilled professionals in a particular field. And historically, there were only 3 vocations that were recognized as learned professions: theology, law, and medicine. Take that, Carlson. Though vastly different in practice, the 3 historic professions actually share some common attributes that have contributed to their central place in society throughout the ages. First, each learned profession requires its members to receive highly specialized training and undertake a rigorous course of study. And that is just as true today as it always was. Law school is no easy task, especially here. And don't let the weather fool you, this winter was tough. This law school is not an easy task. You had lots of doctrine to learn. You had various modes of analysis to master. You had to spar with one another in the classroom, to pivot and learn different positions, take different sides. You had seemingly endless reading. You had Socratic exchanges with your professors. Some you nailed, others you barely escaped. But despite those challenges, the good news is you not only survived, but you thrived. Your success was hard-earned. You were full participants in the expansion of knowledge of law and legal institutions. You enriched both the law school and the broader community through your engagement. But your hard work isn't over. In fact, in many ways, it's just beginning. Even this summer, there is a job search for some and bar study for all. Let me repeat that: bar review and study for all. And by bar review, I don't mean what you've been doing on Thursday nights since your first year, calling it bar review to fool your parents. That's not what I mean. But in addition to the highly specialized training, a second commonality among the learned professions is that all members are entrusted with the lives and affairs of their clientele. In a few short months after you pass the bar, Many of you will be taking on the representation of clients. And no matter the practice area, I guarantee you, at some point in your career, you will be the most important person in someone else's life. You might help them gain citizenship in the United States, or to enter into a contract that provides a family with financial stability, or you'll ensure that someone's final last wishes are carried out. While that all may seem like a daunting proposition, we know, it is one we know, that you are ready for. You are ready to undertake. After all, many of you have already been assisting clients in representation through one of our many legal clinics, whether it was negotiating a class settlement on behalf of fraud victims or crafting a successful clemency petition so that an individual was reunited with his or her family. Others of you have undertaken externships or field placements with judges, legal service providers, or corporations. And still others have completed numerous hours of public pro bono work through the law school's public interest program. But no matter the path that you take, we've prepared you. This law school has prepared you for the challenges that lie ahead in practice. The third common thread for each of the learned professions is that their members have the potential to have a profound impact on society. And I may be biased, but I believe that that's even more the case in the legal profession. Earlier, I mentioned that this was the law school's 130th commencement, which means that there were 129 classes to graduate before you. In fact, you all will earn the law school's 19,388th to the 19,636th degrees of this law school. And each of those graduating classes entered into a world that was changing. Sometimes their world was changing in dramatic ways, sometimes in sad or scary ways, sometimes in good ways. But no matter the time, no matter what was driving societal change, be it world wars, economic upheaval, civil rights revolutions, understandings of new global threats, technological evolution, no matter what the change, lawyers were there. We were there. Lawyers were playing integral roles in helping society deal with those challenges, those changes. Lawyers seized opportunities presented by those changes, and at times even caused some of those changes. But I assure you that when those future leaders were sitting in your seats at their graduations, they had no idea of the role that they would play in the changes of their lifetime. But history tells us that they did play a role, because lawyers always do. And history tells us that you will play a role in changes we will see over the decades to come. You will be there. Our faculty and the Minnesota Law Education equips you with the knowledge, the skills, the motivations to make a difference. You surely brought the talent, but we made you better so that you can make the world better, whether it's through your practice, your firm, your organization, your agency, your community. Now that you are soon to be alumni, you all are the manifestation of our mission. So seize opportunities, embrace the change, create the change. When I reflect on your class, I'm optimistic about the future of our learned profession, of our institutions, of our communities. The world needs more of our special brand of lawyer leaders, Minnesota-trained lawyers, and I'm proud to be seeing you off on your journey. I've spoken to many of you over the past days and weeks about your experiences here, and you've thanked me for the faculty who have challenged you and inspired you, for the staff who have supported you and participated in your educational and professional development. But I want to say thank you to each of you. I know I speak for my faculty and staff colleagues when I tell you that having you here has been a privilege for us. So that thank goes to our LLM and SJD students. You all came to us from 18 different countries. You have been important members of our community, contributing to classroom discussions with your knowledge of other legal systems as you learn about our system. You have helped us become more global and diverse. You've contributed to our excellence. To our MSPL students, you are small in number, but mighty in talent. You press us to think deeply about the policy and practice and about what's next in intellectual property and technology. And to our JDs, your drive, your energy, your esprit de corps has ensured that we have a community that continues to thrive, that is unlike any other. For 3 years, you brought all of yourselves to this place, and we are the better for it. So I want to say to all of you, thank you for choosing the University of Minnesota Law School and allowing us to study law with you. Congratulations. It's now my privilege to present the Faculty Teaching Awards for this academic year. Stanley V. Kenyon graduated from the law school in 1933 and was on the faculty for 40 years. He was a recognized scholar in the field of commercial law and known as a friend of students, both inside and outside the classroom. In his honor, his family and friends have endowed the Stanley V. Kenyon Awards in Teaching. Today, we have 3 recipients. I will ask each of the honorees to come forward and be recognized. From the tenured faculty, the first recipient of the Kenyon Award is Professor Hasday. Professor Jill Hasday teaches and writes in the fields of anti-discrimination law, constitutional law, family law, legal history, and national security law. Her work has appeared in prestigious law journals, including the Harvard Law Review, Stanford Law Review, New York University Law Review, and Michigan Law Review, among others. Her first book, Family Law Reimagined, was published by Harvard University Press. Her next book, Intimate Lies in the Law, will be published by Oxford University in 2018. I think it's worth noting that that book, Intimate Lies, is not based on personal experience, since she's married to a member of our faculty. Professor Hasday joined our law school as a tenured member in 2005. She has been the Centennial Professor of Law since 2013 and was named a Distinguished McKnight University Professor in 2014. Congratulations, Jill. From the clinical faculty, the Kenyon Award goes to Professor Thomas. Professor Laura Thomas teaches in the Robbins Kaplan Civil Litigation Clinic and the Family Law Clinic. She also co-leads and teaches Law in Practice, a first-year course which combines classroom teaching with small group simulation experiences focused on developing lawyering skills. Professor Thomas brings to the faculty her experience as a judicial clerk, as a practitioner of family law and general civil litigation. In addition to her service to the law school, she engages in pro bono work through the Volunteer Lawyers Network. Congratulations, Laura. Kenyon Adjunct or Skills Teacher of the Year award goes to Professor Soper. Professor Christopher Soper is an associate clinical professor and our director of legal writing, where he coordinates and supervises the law school's legal writing and moot court programs. He teaches legal writing and bankruptcy law, rights in the area of bankruptcy law. Prior to arriving at Minnesota, Professor Soper was a judicial clerk, worked as an attorney for the U.S. Sentencing Commission, and a multinational law firm. These experiences inform his innovative teaching style and his focus on clear, effective legal writing and oral advocacy. Congratulations, Chris. Today, we are, of course, honoring all of the members of the class of 2018 for their achievements. And yesterday, at a special honors convocation, we recognized many student award winners and major community contributors, all of whom are listed in the commencement bulletin starting on page 14. It was a pleasure to celebrate those achievements and efforts, and let's give everyone listed in the bulletin a round of applause. But at this point in the ceremony, we do want to honor a few students for distinguished academic, leadership, and service achievements at the law school. I am now pleased to introduce Alexis Stutt, who will present two outstanding student awards who have been selected by their classmates. Alexis will present the Excellence in Public Service Award and the Most Outstanding Contribution Award. Alexis is originally from Abilene, Kansas, and graduated from Drury University. And boy, has she made her mark on this school. During her time here, Alexis was a legal writing instructor, admissions ambassador, assistant orientation director. She was a student director of the Binger Center for New Americans Federal Immigration Litigation Clinic, where she'll be arguing a case before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit. That's the court one level underneath the U.S. Supreme Court. Next week, she's arguing this case. She also participated in various student organizations, including the Street Law Program and Asylum Law Project. And for the past 2 years, she was the director of the law school musical troupe, the Theater of the Relatively Talentless, or TORT. This fall, she will be joining the Karam Law Firm, an immigration law firm in Bloomington, Minnesota. Alexis.
Thank you, Dean Jenkins, and thank you to the entire class of 2018 who nominated and voted for the winners of these awards. I am honored to present these awards on behalf of our class, and I know the award winners are grateful for your support. The Excellence in Public Service Award. The Excellence in Public Service Award honors the student who most exemplified a commitment to public service during law school, through participation in formal and informal public service roles in the law school and the legal community. I am pleased to introduce the recipient of the Class of 2018 Excellence in Public Service Award, Mary Georgievich. Mary Georgievich was born and raised in the northern suburbs of Chicago. After graduating from Santa Clara University with a political science degree, Mary worked as a case manager at Homeboy Industries, a gang intervention program in Los Angeles. She then spent a year in DC advocating for policies that better assisted people living in poverty. Mary returned to Chicago to work at the National Immigrant Justice Center, where her work assisting attorneys in appellate cases on behalf of LGBTQ people motivated her to attend law school. Mary's goal at the University of Minnesota was to leave prepared for a career in advocating for a more just immigration system that recognized the dignity of all people. During her 1L year, Mary traveled with other law students to Dilley, Texas, where the team assisted asylum-seeking detained mothers and their children, after which she continued as a remote volunteer. In her first summer, Mary was a human rights fellow with the New Orleans Workers Center for Racial Justice, assisting immigrant workers in claims before the National Labor Relations Board and in applications for immigration benefits that would allow them to remain in the United States. As a 2L, Mary joined the Federal Immigration Litigation Clinic at the Vinger Center for New Americans. There, she represented immigrant clients in impact litigation before the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals. She also worked as a research assistant for Professor Stephen Miley, supporting his study of human rights advocates in Mexico and other countries. During her 2L summer, Mary worked on gender discrimination-related litigation at Gender Justice in St. Paul. During her last year of law school as a student director in the clinic, Mary worked on appellate advocacy and habeas litigation, including an ongoing class action suit where the court has temporarily stayed the removal of 92 Somali nationals. After law school, Mary will clerk for Justice Ann McKeague of the Minnesota Supreme Court. Mary then plans to pursue a career in immigration and civil rights litigation. Congratulations, Mary. The Most Outstanding Contribution Award. The Most Outstanding Contribution Award honors the student who contributed the most to the graduating class through class participation, involvement in academic programs, leadership in extracurricular activities, and enhancement of the law school experience. I am pleased to introduce the recipient of the Class of 2018 Most Outstanding Contribution Award, Vanessa Coletti. Vanessa is originally from the northwest suburbs of Chicago, a trend today, and remains a big Bears and White Sox fan. She attended Ferris State University in Big Rapids, Michigan, where she majored in criminal justice and minored in Spanish. During her last 2 years of law school, Vanessa was a structured study group instructor. Additionally, she worked as a student attorney in both the criminal justice and environmental and energy law clinics, while also serving on the executive boards for the Native American Service Project, the St. Thomas More Society, and the Latino Law Student Association. Vanessa was a managing editor and social co-chair for the Minnesota Law Review. Vanessa spent both her 1L and 2L summers in Illinois, first interning for the Prairie State Legal Services, a legal nonprofit, and then working for the Kane County State Attorney's Office. On top of all of these achievements, Vanessa is also one of the warmest and most welcoming members of the class of 2018. In her candidate statement, Vanessa wrote, "I can only hope I contributed enough to your law school experience to have made it a little more positive than it may have otherwise been. I know that I personally have often benefited from Vanessa's unwavering enthusiasm and encouragement throughout my 3 years of law school." Upon graduation, Vanessa will have completed concentrations in both criminal justice and environmental and energy law. She plans to continue her career in the field of public service in her home state of Illinois. Congratulations, Vanessa. Thank you, Mary and Vanessa, and all of our other classmates who so actively participated in public service and the law school community over the last 3 years. I am constantly impressed by my fellow classmates' generosity with both their time and their energy. Now I would like to introduce Brandon Blakely, who will present the class gift. Brandon, will you please join me at the podium? Brandon is a member of the 3L Class Gift Committee and served as president of the Black Law Students Association. Brandon was also vice president of the law school's hockey team and the law school's hockey team, the Fighting Mondales, I should specify, a staffer on the ABA Journal of Labor and Employment, and a student attorney in the law school's family law clinic, as well as a student ambassador. This fall, Brandon will be joining the law firm of Briggs & Morgan in Minneapolis.
Thank you, Alexis. This year's class gift will go to support the law school's Diversity Scholarship Fund, ensuring that the school's future student body represents our diverse world. Thank you to fellow committee members Annabelle Cassidy, Devin Driscoll, Kayla Ebert, and Nick Miller-Liley, who together inspired a record-setting number of classmates to participate. Thanks to the law school's Alumni and Student Engagement Committee for adding an incentive matching once our class reached 20% participation. And thanks to the law school's senior staff for an additional matching once our class reached 50%. And most of all, thank you to the class of 2018. Together, we raised over $3,000 as a class and over $6,800 with the matching donations. Congratulations, and thank you to the class of 2018 for your hard work and remarkable accomplishments.
Thank you, Alexis and Brandon, and thank you to the class of 2018 on behalf of the entire law school, generations past and future, for your gift. We greatly appreciate your generosity and thoughtfulness toward this gift. Not that we lawyers are competitive, but I did hear that Section D deserves a special shout out. There. Okay. The oldest student honor is awarded by a faculty committee, the William B. Lockhart Award for Excellence in Scholarship, Leadership, and Service. William B. Lockhart was a legendary dean, our fifth dean, who served from 1956 to 1972. During his 28 years on the faculty, he shared his gift of teaching with countless students, and the William B. Lockhart Award was established in his honor. I'm pleased to present the 2018 Lockhart Award to Rachel Leitzchuk. Rachel embodies two qualities that are essential to the law school and to the law itself: leadership and engagement. Rachel joined Law Council as a 1L representative over the past 3 years has served on the executive board as secretary, director of events, and as president. And trust me, she has been an advocate for classmate concerns and helped promote community building and life balance initiatives, such as the Malpractice Bash, Barrister Ball, the 3L Commencement Party, and beyond. Beyond Law Council, Rachel has been a peer leader to fellow students, an admissions ambassador, orientation leader, and a member of the Student Alumni Engagement Committee. Rachel's engagement extends to academic achievements and scholarship as well. Beyond outstanding grades overall, Rachel has distinguished herself in the law school's celebrated legal writing program, earning top oralist recognition in her first year, joining the program as a student instructor, and helping to innovate the curriculum. Rachel also served as the managing editor of the Minnesota Law Review. And finally, Rachel has engaged in service efforts throughout law school, completing more than 60 hours of service through the law school's public service program. In her time at Mondale Hall, she taught high school students with learning disabilities about timely legal topics. She regularly participated in the MLK Day of Service program and devoted countless hours to making the law school a more inviting place to work and to learn. As Rachel looks ahead to her clerkship with Chief Justice Lori Gilday on the Minnesota Supreme Court, we look forward to her continued leadership and engagement as an alumna of the law school. Please join me in congratulating Rachel. Next, we celebrate two recipients of the Minnesota Law Equity and Diversity Awards. These awards recognize law school community members who have made significant contributions to advancing equity and diversity through their work, extracurricular initiatives, and/or other efforts to promote a welcoming and inclusive climate at the law school. Our first recipient of the Equity and Diversity Award is Amy Heng. Amy, born to Hmong refugees who relocated to Minnesota, she grew up as an interpreter, an advocate for family members and others in marginalized communities. Her interest in speaking for the voiceless led her to study government and peace studies at Georgetown University, and in 2013, she completed a year-long policy fellowship at the University of Minnesota's Humphrey School of Public Affairs in their program on civic engagement in the New Americans in Minnesota. And at the law school, Amy honed her written and oral advocacy skills through moot court advocacy, clinical work, and student leadership. Amy represented the law school at the ABA National Moot Court Competition and mentored peers as a student director of the Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Moot Court. In the Ronald Mankoff Tax Clinic, Amy helped expand educational outreach to Minnesota immigrant communities and won an important audit case for her clients in the U.S. Tax Court. As a law clerk with the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, Amy played a key role in responding to a polling place free speech case that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court earlier this year. And finally, Amy has advanced equity and diversity interests here at the law school through both formal and informal engagement with peers, faculty, and the administration to make the law school community more welcoming and supportive for all. Congratulations and thanks to Amy Heng. Our second recipient of the Equity and Diversity Award is Gabrielle Olivari Slifka. Born in Brazil, Gabrielle grew up wanting to expand her horizons. During her studies at the prestigious Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, Gabrielle pursued a work-study opportunity in a small Florida resort town. She arrived just after the aftermath of Hurricane Wilma. Working in tough circumstances with diverse colleagues in that situation taught her about what she describes as knowing and working with people from all over the world with a variety of accents, values, and codes of ethics. From the start of her time in Mondale Hall, Gabrielle has sought to make the law school more hospitable by advocating for fellow students as a law school representative and treasurer, as leader of the Latino Law Students Association, and as a member of the law school's diversity committee. In those roles, she advanced learning across differences, presented student classroom climate feedback to faculty, organized discussions on current legal topics, and mentored peers. As an advocate, Gabrielle sought to make the legal system itself more responsive to clients in areas of economic justice and immigration. As a student attorney and director with the Bankruptcy Clinic, Gabrielle helped clients seeking financial stability. In her work with the Binger Center for New Americans, she developed a new manual for pro se immigration litigants. Please join me in congratulating Gabrielle. Well, we are now at that stage of the program where we will hear from some of our students. It is my pleasure to introduce Makol Momatam, who will deliver the LLM graduation address. Makol received her master's in international law in 2016 from Islamic Azad University. She worked as a consultant for several years in Iran before she moved to the United States and became a lab assistant at Normandale Community College. She is interested in civil litigation and family law. Makol.
Thank you, Dean Jenkins. Good morning, fellow classmates, family, friends, professors, and faculty members. My name is Mahkol Momtahan. I'm an LLM student originally from Iran. Today is a very special day for all of us as we stand at the threshold of a new chapter in our lives. And for me, it's an honor to be chosen by my classmates to speak on your behalf about our journey through law school. As I stand here, I see so many familiar faces, and with each of them, a memory and interaction is associated. This academic voyage that we undertook a year ago became not only an educational experience, but also a collection of many memories, interesting anecdotes, and moments of self-discovery. I learned that my own hardships and difficulties with regards to balancing life and study paled in comparison to many of my peers who dealt with work, families, and law school. And if that isn't enough, through linguistic and cultural barriers too, because most of us are not native English speakers or from the US. This kind of realization that my challenges are nothing compared to those of others gave me strength and courage to go on. And I suppose many among us had a similar realization. To Rockman from Congo, our LLM representative, I say, you have shown us the fine act of balancing work, study, and the family of 4 children. To all our classmates from China, the sheer hard work that you exhibited during LLM has been a source of great inspiration. To Cagroli from France, also known to us as Coco, your positive energy and liveliness brought us great relief from the stress of homework. And on the same note, we had Arthur from Brazil. No matter how hard things got, he was called, be it fast approaching assignment deadlines or upcoming exam. To Seda, Halil, and Iknur from Turkey. You have a heart of gold, and we wish you more success. To all other classmates from Korea, Germany, Thailand, Norway, Cyprus, Saudi Arabia, Libya, Nigeria, Taiwan, Vietnam, Japan, and Cameroon, I'd like to say that your academic contribution to LLM is unmatched, and your cultural contribution to the University of Minnesota is everlasting. I feel so lucky to have rubbed shoulders with such erudite scholars and peers, and feel grateful for having so many diverse points of views during my learning process. The law school at the University of Minnesota has great professors and mentors. I won't forget that moment when I nearly quit the LLM program, and it was Professor Zamoff who mentored and guided me on how to tackle the LLM. His words inspired me and propelled me to work harder and never be afraid of any challenge. And now, to my disbelief, I'm standing here not only graduating with the LLM degree, but I have been accepted to continue on in the JD program. And I know that all students have had a similar inspiring interaction with other professors of the law school as well. I'd like to thank Director Kerr Galvin for her endless support to us during our time here at law school. Ever since she joined the LLM program, we felt a remarkable improvement in the school's overall management, communication, and processes. They say you cannot get there alone, and that is especially true for me. Only a year and a half ago, I met the most remarkable man in my life. Not only did I find my true love in him, but also found my source of inspiration and self-belief. Thank you, Shahnawaz, for your love and your strength that empowers me every day to take on formidable challenges. I thank my parents for their love and their support. They always wished to see me graduate from law school, but they couldn't make it today due to the travel ban. But I know their prayers are with me. And thanks to Hannah. Thanks to Hannah, all the staff and faculty members for your continued support to the LLM program. We all came to LLM expecting only to learn law, but the great friendships that we forged along the way were certainly an unexpected gift. Some of us may not see each other again from today onwards, because many among us may be returning to our homes all over the globe. But I'd like to say that we will be in each other's hearts and minds. So let's stay in touch and hope that our paths cross again. Good luck to you all and Godspeed.
Thank you, Magol. Now I'd like to introduce the member of the class of 2018 who will present the JD graduation address, and that is Andrew Miles. Andrew is a native of Bettendorf, Iowa, and was a 2015 graduate of the University of Iowa. While at Iowa, Andrew gained his first real exposure to politics and law, where he worked for the then governor. It was this experience that solidified his passion for law and policy and carried him to our law school, where he willingly traded in Hawkeye black and gold for maroon and gold. Since coming to law school, Andrew has focused on corporate and transactional law, and he earned a business law concentration. Last summer, he worked for the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission in Washington, D.C. Andrew has received honors and book awards in multiple classes, served as a research assistant to Professor Chris Roberts, and was lead articles editor on the Minnesota Journal of International Law. This summer, Andrew will be sitting for the Illinois bar exam. Andrew.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dean Jenkins. My name is Andrew Miles, and I am honored to be the JD class speaker and to represent this outstanding class of 2018. It's great to see how many people and how full this room is. I know that all of your friends, families, professors, staff, and others who have made the trip are incredibly proud of all of your accomplishments, and I want to thank them for their steadfast support throughout our journey. I'd like to use today as an opportunity to reflect on our accomplishments and to preview those yet to come as soon as we walk across this stage. First, I'd like to start with looking back at where we've all come from, our experiences before coming to law school. All 187 of us here today come from different backgrounds and beliefs, different life experiences that have contributed to why we wanted to come to law school and how we view the world. Long before becoming physically and intellectually and emotionally depleted 1Ls, we had some pretty interesting careers and life experiences. Among us today are former teachers, foreign-trained lawyers, and members of our nation's armed services. There are former paralegals who decided to make the jump to law school, and there are those who worked in politics, finance, and for nonprofits. And as for me, which I'm sure a few of you out there might be able to relate to, I came to law school because I quickly realized in undergrad that my career prospects and earnings potential with a bachelor's degree in political science might be slim. So what better way to increase those prospects than to spend a lot more money on school? But no matter our previous profession, we sit here today with one thing in common. We will soon be lawyers. Second, I want to look back at why we came from across the country and even across the world to Minnesota law, where we got our world-class legal education. Many of us came to Minnesota because of its reputation for not only producing top-notch lawyers, but also because of the collegial environment that makes our law school truly unique. Others came to learn from some of the best legal minds in the country. Some came because at the time it was a top 20 law school, which I'm proud to say we have rightly proclaimed again. And maybe a select few of you came because when you came up for a visit, you were just blown away by that distinctive architecture that is Mondale Hall. But after spending 3 long years in a basement with pretty much zero natural lighting, I doubt that. But no matter your reason for picking Minnesota law, we were fortunate enough to come together over the last 3 years to do some pretty incredible things. First off, we survived that whirlwind that was 1L year. All the reading, the cold calls, and the late-night legal writing brief writing. I know my section specifically, Section D, survived all the cold calls from Dean Erbsen and CivPro, which some of us unfortunately had to endure twice. We've read by now tens of thousands of pages of casebooks, supplements, law review articles, and of course those late-night case notes on Quimby. Those on Law Journal survived a grueling 2-week petition process and by now have edited hundreds of pages of law review articles, stressed about whether a particular period or comma should be italicized in a footnote, and hosted some pretty incredible symposiums on pharmaceutical drug companies, the laws governing countries transitioning from wartime to peacetime, and civil rights. Notably, the Summit on Civil Rights celebrated 50 years of the 1968 Fair Housing Act, and it celebrated our very own Vice President Walter Mondale, who is the Act's chief sponsor. Our class also excelled in various moot courts and sent students across the country and across the world, where they argued in competitions, successfully representing the University of Minnesota Law School, gaining unparalleled courtroom experience in front of judges and practitioners. Most of us here today also participated in our nationally ranked clinic program, where student attorneys gain firsthand experience working with real clients. We saw triumphs in the courtroom, securing unemployment benefits in administrative court, refunds for the working poor in tax court, and liberty for new Americans in immigration court, along with the help of the generous $25 million gift from the Robina Foundation to the James H. Binger Center for New Americans. Aside from all our time in classrooms, courtrooms, and the law library, we've also managed to have some fun. Our class has participated in and produced 3 outstanding tort productions. We've done law prom 3 times with minimal impact on our character and fitness applications. We've celebrated birthdays, weddings, and some of us have welcomed new children into the world. And we also got to experience what a Minneapolis Super Bowl was like, which everyone besides the Vikings fans and probably Frank Rosenberg seemed to enjoy. But putting together the places we've been and the things that we've accomplished at the law school, the question remains, where all this now takes us. Where are we going? Well, in the short term, we know by now where we'll be sitting for the bar exam and maybe where we plan to clerk and start our practice of law. While we should certainly be proud of these next steps, we have a whole different adventure that we are about to embark on, with future goals that we can meet and some doors to open that we don't even know exist. But as future lawyers, we are comfortable by now with the unknown and living in a world of gray. As soon as we walk across this stage, we're ready to take on the world and be the future leaders of tomorrow. The ones who will be making law, setting policy, and being leaders in our communities. We have the ability to help those who are having some bad luck and to do a lot of good in this world. These past experiences and the skills that we have developed are only one part of our equation to success. The relationships that we have made with each other, our dedication to excellence, and our continued desire to do the right thing will continue to help us overcome any challenges that we may face throughout our careers and throughout life. I'd like to wish all of you the best of luck in your futures and say that I'm going to miss being with you all at Mondale every day. It truly was an amazing experience, and we've certainly taught each other so much over these past 3 years. I look around and see a group that was forced into room 25 nearly 3 years ago, where we had to come up with arguments with strangers we didn't yet know in response to Professor McGovern's hypo, comparing peppers and fruits. It was there where we first started to do that thing that's called thinking like a lawyer. Now, many of us are lifelong friends. We've created memories and have had experiences that will last us a lifetime. Congratulations again to the class of 2018. We deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. It is now my honor to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Arne Sorensen. Arne Sorensen is President and Chief Executive Officer of Marriott International, which encompasses more than 6,500 properties across 30 leading hotel brands spanning 127 countries. In 2012, Mr. Sorensen became the third CEO in the company's history, and the first whose last name is something other than Marriott. He had previously held several positions with the hospitality giant since joining it in 1996, including Chief Operating Officer, Chief Financial Officer, and Associate General Counsel. He was elected to Marriott's Board of Directors in 2011. Prior to joining Marriott, he was a partner with the law firm Latham & Watkins in Washington, D.C. Mr. Sorensen also serves on the board of directors of Brand USA, of the Microsoft Corporation, and the Brookings Institution. He earned his bachelor's degree in 1980 from Luther College and a law degree from the University of Minnesota Law School in 1983. Please join me in welcoming Arne Sorensen.
Good morning. Thank you for that great introduction, Dean Jenkins. Members of the board, distinguished faculty and staff, graduating students, family and friends, thank you for the honor of inviting me to speak today. It is wonderful to be back to the University of Minnesota and particularly to a law school crew. For those of you graduating today, I was sitting exactly where you are 35 years ago, so ready to be finished with my law degree. Anticipating my future, eager to get started on a judicial clerkship out east, maybe full of the shallow confidence of a new lawyer, thinking I was ready to practice law. Now, to be entirely honest, I can't remember who my law school commencement speaker was, or what he or she spoke about. My guess is you won't either. Let me do the math, in 2053. You might not even remember this speech tomorrow, by the way. But no worries. The most important thing today is to celebrate this completion of your law degree. Congratulations. The world and the profession you're entering into has changed a great deal since I graduated in 1983. 1983 was the year Motorola released the first cell phone, an item heavier than the laptops you carry today. It was the year Microsoft released its first version of Word. And if you wanted a computer in 1983, you could have bought the IBM XT, the most advanced personal computer of its time. It came with 10 megabytes of memory, 270 kilobytes of RAM, and had a price tag of $8,000 in today's dollars. Maybe more concretely, I wrote multiple drafts of my law review article on a typewriter, meaning every draft had to be started from scratch, retyping every single word, because the typewriter had no memory. Now, society has changed in countless ways, too. We are more diverse than ever before. Look at your class. Whatever grade you give yourselves for diversity, it is profoundly more diverse than the group that sat here 35 years ago. I suspect most of you appreciate it. You probably also take it for granted because it's what you're used to. My work in the hotel business is made up of an extraordinarily diverse group of people delivering services to an extraordinarily diverse group of customers. And my experience causes me to believe that essentially everyone who has experienced diversity is better for it and appreciative of it. The path towards inclusiveness should not and cannot be stopped. And yet, we seem to be tearing apart at the seams. Maybe a story will illustrate this point. It seems there was a woman in a hot air balloon who realized she was lost. So she lowered her altitude and spotted a man fishing in a boat below. She shouted to him, "Excuse me, can you help me? I promised a friend I would meet him an hour ago, but I don't know where I am." The man in the boat, consulting his onboard GPS, said, "You're in a hot air balloon, approximately 30 feet above sea level. You are at 41 degrees, 27 minutes north latitude, and 87 degrees, 2 minutes west longitude." She rolled her eyes and said, "You must be a Republican." "I am," replied the man. "How did you know?" "Well," answered the balloonist, "everything you've told me is technically correct, but totally irrelevant to my life. You told me where I am, but I'm still lost. Frankly, you're not much help to me." Just wait, just wait. Yeah, if you're a Democrat, that's where you want to stop the story, by the way. The man smiled and responded, and he said, "You must be a Democrat." "I am," she replied. "How did you know?" "Well," said the man, "you don't know where you are or where you're going. You made a promise you have no idea how to keep. You're in exactly the same position you were before we met, but now somehow it's all my fault." I started telling this story nearly a decade ago, believing that it illustrated how we were starting to use political labels to make unhelpful generalizations about others, and in the process not hearing what others had to say. Today, telling this story feels like hearkening back to a quaint yesteryear, when there was at least a political philosophy that guided many. Today, we use political and other labels not just to quit listening, but to attack, and to attack ferociously. If you say one single thing that seems critical of my candidate or my idea, I will shut down and shut you out. About politics and increasingly about everything else. How many families do you know where politics can no longer be talked about at the Thanksgiving get-together? And if we can't talk about differing views with those we love, what chance do we have to talk about differing views with those we don't love? Of course, this is a lament you've heard many, many times, and I suspect is one that most everybody in the room agrees with. But what does it have to do with a law school graduation? Everything. And here's where you'll get the first bit of advice from me. If we're ever going to change this dynamic in society today, it will be driven by the marriage of two things: expertise, and empathy. These are things that lawyers need in abundance, and they are taught in abundance at this law school, even if the words used to describe them may vary at times. You've spent your years here digging deep into the principles that drive legal decisions. Your professors have insisted that you understand the nuances of the case law or the statutory framework, refusing to accept an inaccurate or partial understanding. Some of these professors may have frustrated you. At least I hope some of them did, because no matter how hard they pressed you, their pressure will seem gentle compared to what good opposing counsel will try to do to you. In any important legal matter, there will be talent across the table or on the other side of the courtroom, and if they have deeper expertise in the law or the facts, they're more likely to win. You cannot survive without the depth of preparation that those matters require, at least not usually. The first case I tried was a pro bono case on behalf of the DC Preservation League. We were trying to get the historic Warner Theater in Washington, D.C. designated as a historic landmark. On a Friday afternoon, a more senior lawyer dropped the file off on my desk and explained she could not make the trial on Monday. And she essentially instructed me to try the case. I read everything in the file. I understood the history of the building. I think I understood the history of the law. But it wasn't until I got into the hearing room and a seasoned lawyer began to object to my inept questions that I realized I really had no idea to try this case. Thankfully, the strength of the building won the day. Notwithstanding that lucky outcome, it taught me that there is simply no substitute for mastering the facts and the law and the process. Expertise, deep expertise, will win the day. Seems obvious enough, doesn't it, with respect to expertise? What about the idea of empathy? Is that really relevant to the practice of law? Well, it should be reasonably obvious for those of you heading to trial work that empathy is essential. If you don't understand where the witnesses are coming from with their testimony, you're doomed. Trying a case is telling a story, but with characters that have come to life, and they insist on using their own words, not yours. Depositions and other forms of discovery can help you, of course, but your effort to convey a cohesive story will depend on an empathetic understanding of those witnesses. Even in the deal maker's space, empathy is essential. I should confess I was never a deal lawyer, but I've spent many years as a principal doing deals, and I've watched countless lawyers working for us or for counterparties plying their trade. Well, this is an overgeneralization. There are generally two types of deal makers or deal-making lawyers. One thinks of only what he or she wants and relentlessly demands through multiple rounds of negotiation what it wants. The other tries to understand what each side needs in the negotiation and then tries to solve the problem in a way that gets as close as possible to meeting the needs of both sides. The first type is an attack dog. The second, a problem solver. The first views understanding the aims of the counterparty as irrelevant. The second as essential. Now, the first might get a deal done if the deal's compelling enough, but they're unlikely to ever get a second deal done with the same party. The empathetic deal maker is more likely to get the first deal done, and in the right circumstances, many more. These traits, expertise and empathy, are essential not only for you as lawyers, but for us as society. If we are ever going to extract ourselves from the hyper-partisan world we live in, it is not through tweets, a form of communication ideal for name-calling but little else, but through expertise and listening. Think about immigration, which in my view is the most polarizing issue in American society today. A tweet is an ideal way to say build a wall, but a failure of substance or expertise. Equally, advocacy for sanctuary cities, which is little more than refusing to respect the current legal construct, is a failure of empathy. In fact, it is a clear refusal to hear those many voices that say, we don't know how our immigration system works. Each position might be emotionally satisfying, but they will never bring us where we need to go, to a new consensus on immigration, to a new policy. Until we have one, until someone puts the work in to be an expert and listens enough to understand the depths of the conflict and see a path towards a solution, we will be doomed to argue the issue from polar extremes. So get across this stage, get to work, and help us solve these problems. Enough of the heavy stuff. I want to leave you with two other thoughts, both learned or being learned by me since I left this place in 1983. First, just say yes. And second, be a pal. What do I mean by just say yes? Well, plan if you want, but don't overplan. And don't be a slave to whatever plan you have. Opportunities will come up that you might not have anticipated or that you might not think you're ready for. If the opportunities are presented to you, it is likely that someone else, someone who knows you and has observed you, thinks you're ready. If you'd asked me 35 years ago where I'd be today, the last thing I would have told you is CEO of Marriott. I didn't plot this career path. It certainly wasn't something I was foolish enough to aspire to. I let my career unfold. I started along a path that many of you will soon take. After graduating, I clerked for a year in the Second Circuit. Then I moved to Washington, D.C. to work for Latham & Watkins, where I spent 12 years specializing in M&A litigation. I liked the work. I had no plans to leave the practice of law. One of my clients was Marriott, and for 4 years I took them through a series of tough lawsuits. Over the course of those years, I got to know the folks at Marriott and came to love the company they'd built. The corporate values they worked so hard to maintain, and the leadership talent they'd assembled. So when Mr. Marriott reached out to me and said, "We want you to come work for the company," I knew him and the company well enough to just say yes. 16 years later, he asked me to be his successor as CEO. Well, I didn't plan it, I love it, and I'm glad I said yes. As a practicing lawyer, you're going to develop lots and lots of relationships with other lawyers, and with many clients, and with leaders in the community. Of course, you should also always focus on the work in front of you and do your best to deliver results. As you do, opportunities are going to pop up, often in unexpected ways. It might be somebody telling you to take that file and try a case you think you're unprepared for. It might be a job offer. Keep your minds and hearts open for those twists and turns of fate, and challenge yourself to just say yes. My last bit of advice, and this is the most important one I can offer you, and to me as well: be a pal. The legal profession can be all-encompassing and all-consuming. The tendency is to think, I'll get around to that friendship business someday, or to spending more time with my spouse, or taking time for my children. The challenge is even greater today than 35 years ago due to our 24/7 connectivity. The nature of the legal profession is to be responsive to the timelines that others set. Your clients, judges, crises, they can seldom be scheduled far in advance, and there will be no choice but to be focused on meeting those timelines. For too many, that only diverts us from friendship while work pushes in. And later, when time is available, we don't make the deliberate effort to invest in our friendships. It's a shame, really, because friendships are more important than money, career success, fame, even good nutrition in fostering health and happiness. Don't take my word for it. Back in 1938, Harvard researchers had the brilliant idea to track 268 sophomores to look for clues as to what improved health and happiness. They've been at it now for more than 80 years, and the study has expanded to include 1,300 offspring of the original cohort. It's the longest-running study ever conducted. What have they found? To the surprise of those researchers, they learned that close relationships are the single most important indicator of health and happiness. The strength of your relationships with family, friends, and spouses are better predictors of long and happy lives than social class, IQ, or even genes. Dr. Robert Waldinger, who is now the 4th director of the Harvard study, noted that over and over, our study has shown that people who fared the best were the people who leaned into relationships with family, friends, and with community. Seems obvious, right? Trust me, friendships are easy at your age. They practically fall in your lap. But they get increasingly more difficult to make and sustain as you get older. It takes time and commitment. It won't happen unless you're deliberate about making it happen. But if you're looking for happiness, You won't regret a minute you spend on it. Take a moment to look around you. Look at the friends you've made here at the law school. And make a promise to yourself, right here and right now, to work as hard at maintaining those friendships as you do pursuing your career. Nothing in life is as important as your friendships. Congratulations to all of you. I wish you all the best, and I wish you great happiness as well. Congratulations.
Thank you to Mr. Sorensen, a great friend and supporter of the law school and the embodiment of the many ways that University of Minnesota lawyers can go and lead and make a difference in the world. Thank you so much. Now, we finally reached the moment you've all been waiting for, the conferring of the degrees. Regent Rocha, will you please step forward and join me on the podium? Yes. Okay. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Dean Jenkins. It's always an honor to be asked to an event like this, and it's especially an honor to be part of a ceremony with one of the colleges that I attended and one that had such a profound impact on my life. I have enjoyed the speakers tremendously today. Dean Jenkins drawing to the fact that you don't necessarily know today where you'll be 22 years later where I am, or 35 years later like Mr. Sorensen, and I would just echo those sentiments of taking chances on things that you wouldn't necessarily have thought were in your career plan. I want to thank Dean Stein, who, while I was an undergraduate, suggested I take a flyer on the LSAT and brought me to law school. I was not as appreciative as a 1L of his advice, but certainly when I look back on the experiences that I've had and things that I never would have anticipated, an opportunity to spend time with Judge Gerald Haney, for whom I clerked out of law school, chambered in Duluth with the Eighth Circuit, and to have a chance to experience the breadth of wisdom of one of the great political and legal leaders of our state for the last half of the 20th century. Certainly appreciated that. I would note that when you're working for a judge in Duluth and you're the only clerk with four-wheel drive, you will get a lot of time with the judge to learn from him. But over time, having a practice, I've had an opportunity to work with a big firm, Briggs & Morgan. Mr. Blakely, you've made an excellent choice. Working on multi-billion-dollar products liability cases, and then moving into a small firm practice with classmates from the class of '96, where we took on cases where we were helping Vietnamese immigrants get their reputation back to charges of communism, to working with the Hmong 18 Council in negotiating with General Vang Pao on coming up with a culturally appropriate funeral facility for the Hmong community. Things that certainly, as I was sitting where you are, I would have had no concept that I'd ever be a part of. And then more recently, having an opportunity with the Minnesota Army National Guard and the 34th ID as the Chief of Operational Law to be in the Middle East, working with Iraqi judicial leaders on the Iraqi Constitution and rule of law questions, and briefing the Chief of Special Forces and the regional leaders of Special Forces of the Iraqi police and military on the agreement between the United States and the country of Iraq during a war environment. Just things that I'm just profoundly grateful for, and thank you so much to the faculty for what they provided with us in that setting. I note that returning to the Board of Regents, I've had an opportunity to talk about major issues that affect our student body, and members of your class have been a part of helping us frame those questions, and it just reminds me about how things come full circle as I'm discussing issues of liability for student organizations for the acts of individuals, and discussing the circumstances of legislation in the process of making things say what you mean to say, and having that debate with Professor Chomsky. And I would just point out that if you think it's any less intimidating 22 years after law school, you'll be very surprised. But anyways, with no further ado, I apologize for speaking so much in the first person, but my children aren't very interested in my stories, and I can't force them to sit in an auditorium waiting for me to confer their law degrees. So thank you for being part of my therapy. I would ask the candidates to please stand. Upon the recommendation of the Dean and Faculty of Law, and by the authority of the Board of Regents delegated to me, I now confer upon you the degree for which you have qualified.
Congratulations. You can now move the tassel on the other side to signify your accomplishment. You may be seated. The JD class of 2018 has selected Professors Laura Thomas and Mitchell Zamoff to present their class. Director of International and Graduate Programs, Kara Galvin, will present the LLM class. Professor Robert Stein will present the SJD class, and Professor Chris Tarosky will present the Masters of Science and Patent Law class. Let's begin.
Jemima Ajanwuchukwu.
Alexander Akers.
Tar Ali.
Christopher Arnold.
Emily Atmore.
Maisie Baldwin.
Ellen Bastian.
Daniel Baum.
Mary Beal.
Alexander Burke.
Brandon Blakely.
Chelsea Bowden.
Alex Bowman.
Maria Brecky.
Carolyn Bressman.
Jordan Bugala.
Elizabeth Belinsky.
Catherine Burkhart.
Spencer Caldwell McMillan.
Richard Canada.
Rachel Cardwell.
Annabelle Cassidy.
Alan Chang.
Fang Zhou Chen.
Junmo Cho.
Yang Chao.
Denise Chow. Vanessa Coletti.
Aaron Conlon.
Stephen Coulard.
Charles Crawford.
John Crozier.
Taylor Cunningham.
Christopher De Silva.
Ryan Daly.
Bethany Davidson.
Ryan Dowell.
Bailey Drexler.
Devin Driscoll.
Alexis Dutt.
Kayla Ebert.
Congratulations. Andrew Erler.
Nicole Foss.
Shane Fitzmaurice.
Bernadette Foe.
Adam Fruden.
Kelsey Fuller.
Luke Gagnon.
Lauren Gallenstein.
Teng Gay.
Peyton George.
Mary Georgievich.
Nicholas German.
Taylor Guess. Taylor Jess.
Jesse Goldfarb.
Daniel Green.
Philip Giebert.
Franklin Genthner.
Ashley Haas.
Maximilian Hall.
Paul Hallgren.
Chase Hamilton.
Junyi Han.
Shashi Han.
Amy Hang.
Jacob Harkson.
Tyler Hartney.
Theodore Heckel.
Mackenzie Heinrichs.
An Huang.
Alfredo Huang.
Sarah Inskeep.
Jason Jack.
Amy Jang. And assistant.
Joseph Jenahusky.
Amy Johns.
Samuel Johnson.
Kara Johnston.
Allison Jones.
Jonathan Jones.
Olivia Judd.
Jik Zhuang.
Alexandra Kazmarek.
Kate Kelsenberg.
Ashlyn Kenzior.
Tara Kennedy.
Mohammed Uman Khalid.
Alice Kim.
Hannah Kim.
Anna Cook.
Ethan Conshu.
Rebecca Christosick.
Rachel Lightchuck.
Jordan Lightsky.
Jorgen Lervik.
Sarah Lewenstein.
Maria Lombardi.
Bradley Machoff.
Stephen Meyer.
Jonathan Mansker.
Trevor Matthews.
Taylor Mayhall.
Ken McGurran.
Bailey Metzger.
Emma Meyer.
Andrew Miles.
Kelsey Mize.
Alana Mosley.
Nicholas Mueller-Liley.
Macy Muller.
David Nemitz.
Mitchell Ness.
Nan Ni.
Allie Nickel.
Mitchell Nordicki.
Congratulations, doing great. Joseph Novak.
Devin O'Donnell. Gabrielle Olivieri Slifik.
Caitlin Opperman.
Janelle Rickstrew. Janelle Rickstrew Patton.
Russell Payne.
Christian Pekia Beckham.
Aditya Purakath.
James Perez.
Lawrence Philbin.
Jacob Pittman.
Alec Pisano.
Nicholas Rutkowski.
Nathan Rice.
Mary Reverso.
Franklin Rosenberg.
Jordan Rude.
Christopher Ruska.
Simon Rutherford.
Eric Rue. Timothy Sanders Sabo.
Phil Sandridge.
Rhett Schweichtenberg.
Lauren Seawright.
Salani Sekar. Peter Selness.
Adam Setra.
Jessica Sharp.
Hanjing Shi.
Michael Sikora.
Miranda Slat.
Nicholas Smith.
James Soper.
Matthew Sorensen.
Austin Spillane.
James Summers.
Priya Sankara.
Catherine Tank.
Kareem Tawfik.
Ryan Torpy.
Ashley Turacek.
Nathan Vanderlaan.
Scott Villery.
Kelsey Vonderleith.
Alexander Walsdorf.
Lynn Wang.
Yiming Wang.
Thomas Welty.
Chelsea Wenzel.
Mary William.
Claire Williams.
Joshua Wold.
Luke Wolf.
Yi Wu.
Ife Yang.
Seth Zawilla.
Lauren Zank.
And there you have the class of 2018 Juris Doctor recipients. Congratulations.
And now it is my honor to present the LLM class of 2018. Rhea Al-Harbi. Zachariah Al-Muhim. Seda Arik. Numene Bartekwa Jr. Rockman Bentumo. Jacharang Bunsang. Ilkner Chaki. Jianing Chen. Dangjun Choi. Arthur Diaz Duarte. Jashin Fang. Thank you. Zhao Yanglu Fu. Luca Furman. Yuta Fukui. Yunjin Zhang. Christina Kapes. Halil Kasapoglu. Jang Yoon Kim. Ivani Komodromu. Frederick Nordahl Marthanussen. Mako Momtahen. Nadaya Mwenbavangsa. Menard Ntuko Siewe. Idowu Obazelua. Paul Refay. Paolo Renato Ruffalo. Wu Ruin. Yao Yu Shen. Christine Strom. Carolyn Stewart. Wen Chen Tai. Lan Tran. Coralie Trichard. Enju Wu. Xu Mengzhang. Jiatian Xu. Tian Yao. Yuanin Yin. Taesuk Yu. Mei Yuan. Xu Yue. Yijing Zheng. Hey. Oh, yes. Yin Zhang. Chen Zhao. Yabo Zhao. Meng Zhu. 2018 LLM class.
This year, for the first time, the University of Minnesota Law School is awarding a Doctor of Juridical Studies degree, an SJD degree. Some describe this degree as a PhD in law. SJD candidates undertake advanced legal study and original research under faculty supervision, which makes a significant contribution of long-term value to legal scholarship. The candidate's dissertation must be of publishable quality and provide lawyers, scholars, and government officials with a useful understanding, not previously available, of a particular area of the law. The law school's first Doctor of Juridical Studies degree is awarded today to Mohammed Abdullah Al-Mohim. Mohammed is a lecturer at King Faisal University Law School in Saudi Arabia. Mr. Al-Mohim received his Master of Laws degree, LLM, from this law school in 2014, and he's been engaged in his SJD coursework and writing his dissertation since 2015. Mr. Al-Mohim's dissertation is entitled, quote, Judicial Independence in Saudi Arabia, Prospects and Challenges. He plans to return to King Faisal University Law School and establish a human rights center. Mohammed Abdullah Al-Mohim.
I'm Professor Chris Tarosky, and it's my honor to introduce the 2018 Masters of Science in Patent Law graduates. Isabel Fox. Leah Raditz. Lindsay Louise Stevens. Congratulations, graduates.
Congratulations to all of our graduates. Let's give them one more well-deserved round of applause. Class of 2018, you came to us as students, and today you leave us as lawyers and professionals. But of course, you never really leave us or each other. If you remember nothing else from today's ceremony years from now, please remember these 5 words. It's both my charge to you as your dean and also my wish for you as someone who has become very fond of this class, and that is to go out in the world and do well and do good. Congratulations, and to conclude our ceremony, please stand and join us in singing the University of Minnesota anthem, led by members of our student tort musical group. The lyrics of the anthem are printed in your program on page 1. thank you, Tort Singers and the Stone Arch Brass. And thanks to everyone, our distinguished guests, family, friends, everyone who came to help the class of 2018 commemorate its commitments of a life in law. My colleagues and I look forward to kicking off the celebrations and congratulating the newest graduates and members of our profession and meeting their families outside these doors with a brief reception here at Northrop and outside. We ask that the audience please remain seated until the faculty leads the class of 2018 out of the auditorium. This concludes our ceremony, and thank you.
you.